So, big night.
Look, my name is Lorne Michaels. I'm the producer of Saturday Night.
The whole night?
Yeah, the whole
Cute.
night.
Hi, Jason. How are you? Nice to talk to you.
Hey, Barbara, how are you? Yeah, good to see you.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So, Jason, you already said that you had two dreams, to be a writer and on SNL and to direct movies. You completed these dreams. But how does the show connect so deeply into your life? It's like a third dream to make a movie about SNL.
Yeah, in many ways, because it felt like, we got to kind of recreate a world that I always wanted to walk through. I think, if you, a question that we always ask people, that people always ask each other is, if you could live at any moment in the past, where and when would it be? Would you want to live in ancient Rome, or would you want to live in the movie studio system of the 1940s? And a big one for me is SNL in the 1970s. I've always wondered what it would be like to be there. And I was fortunate enough to have one of the greatest production designers on earth and one of the greatest costume designers and all these brilliant actors to actually bring it to life so I could actually go back in time and be there.
And Saturday Night Live is very famous in the United States. Here in Brazil, we have an idea of the importance of the show, but I would like you to tell me about its importance, its legacy.
Yeah, I think its legacy worldwide has a lot to do with the talent that came out of it. I think names like, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, and then Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell. We're talking about actors who started in one room in one building in New York City and now are known around the world. And there's something interesting about this satellite. There's something, about this orphanage that Lorne Michaels created for wayward comedians that allowed them to mature and find their voice so that they can become noteworthy, literally everywhere in the world. And I think that Saturday Night Live for me represented a place for, on a weekly basis, the most talented writers and comedians put on the equivalent of a high school play as created on a Tuesday and went live on a Saturday. And I've always been someone who enjoys the spontaneity of creation, and it's so alive and well at Rockefeller Center.
And your film explores a night of tension and emotion. So I want to know, how challenging was it for you and the crew, of course, to capture the rhythm of that countdown?
An enormous challenge, and easily the hardest movie I've ever made, but also the most joyful. The choreography of 90 straight minutes of chaos is like putting on a ballet with, 160 dancers. Who have to kind of run into each other in this organic process that results in them all culminating and coming together and putting on a show. So we all kind of knew that going in, but it's one thing to know it, it's a whole other thing to actually build the set, dress the characters, cast the actors, and choreograph this dance so that an audience can be thrown in there and believe in it. Because that's what the most important thing is, to believe in the truth of this world. And I think we're used to seeing that in science fiction movies, like people are asked to believe in the truth of Avatar. Here we're asking people to believe in the truth of Rockefeller Center, October 11th, 1975, and this group of wayward comedians who changed comedy as we know it.
And the film focuses a lot on the young, diverse crew of talent of this show. So which aspects of their dynamic do you consider essential to SNL's success to this day?
It's a great question, and it's so disparate from actor to actor. And I think that's what's so interesting about the show, is that Gilda Radner is this well of unending empathy, while John Belushi is absolutely dangerous and explosive. And Chevy Chase is like the definition of the word ego. And it's the way that these molecules bounce off each other that makes that show so thrilling.
NBC makes more money playing reruns of The Tonight Show.
NBC is lucky to have something as relevant as this show.
One they don't even want.
And Lorne Michaels is an iconic figure, but the film portrays him before the fame. So how did
Yeah.
you and Gabriel Labelle, of course, bring this younger version of Lorne to the screen? It's very interesting to see him.
Yeah, and it was a very tricky character to portray in that, we only can know so much about who he was at 29 years old. We have to presume that his strength and his vision were there, but there had to be vulnerability as well. And what I related to the most as a director was what it feels like to have a vision where you can't articulate it to everybody. You have this idea in your head, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it tastes like, but the only way to convey it is to create it. So all the way there, you're trying to bring people along and give them direction and empower them, and at the same time, never be able to answer the question, what the hell is Saturday night? What are we making here? And that's the film, that's the experience I've had on every movie I've ever made, where I'm willing people along and trying to get them to believe, and at the same time, I'm being incapable of giving them a concrete answer about what we're making.
Mm-hmm. And your directing is known for its focus on complex characters and sensible moments. You have great movies like Tully, Up in the Air. I'm a really fan of your work, by the way.
Thank you.
And here, you're welcome. And here you have a lot of characters, right? Saturday Night is have a bunch of characters, different characters. So how did you come to this balance of humor and dramatic tension?
It's a great question, and I really appreciate the way you asked it. And I think in the past, I've had to focus on characters where I'm dealing with 100 different levels of complex truth within one character. And on this movie, it was about having 80 characters who each represented singular ideas. So Chevy Chase was an ego that needed to be humbled, And John Belushi is a guy who is in hiding because he's so scared about what fame might do to him. And Garrett Morris is a character who is deeply in search of his identity. And so it became about nailing down the essence of each one of these characters and allow them having to each have a arc, a plot line that, would go 4 or 5 moments, sometimes in the foreground, sometimes in the background. And the writing of the movie became incredibly complex because we're tracking so many characters through space and time, and they're bouncing off of each other. And we sometimes only get a brief moment with each of them, but it's just enough to understand where they're in the progress of their arc.
And how do you hope that the audience will understand the SNL's relevance through the film and its details? Because you bring some Easter eggs with the characters and everything. So how do you expect the younger generation will see your movie?
Similar to what we did on Ghostbusters, when I made a Ghostbusters film, I felt like, okay, yes, needs to be a detailed movie that really works for Ghostbusters fans, but at the same time, I want this to be a movie for anyone who knows what it's like to be within 3 generations of a family, and what it's like to be scared to pick up the baton from your parents, and what it's also like when a grandchild is ready to be just like their grandparents. And on Saturday night, I knew that there are many audiences who don't even know what Saturday Night Live is, but they know what it means to put on a show. Everyone knows what it's like to either been in a high school play or a summer camp musical or just to put on a play in your grandparents' basement. Everyone's picked up their parents' video camera or your iPhone and said, let's go make a movie. What Gil Kennan and I were interested in is that human instinct to create. And it's in its purest form when it's not well funded, when it's not organized, when it comes from that young instinct to change things and to do things, different for the first time. And what I love about Saturday Night Live is that heightened sense of anarchy, that demand of a generation who says, we are not going to do it like the previous generation did it, is at full volume. And as a result, for 50 years, Saturday Night Live has, in the US, represented the ever-evolving, identity of comedy. And I have to imagine anyone who watches this movie anywhere around the world is going to identify with a group of 20-year-olds who says, it's our time.
Perfect. And can I ask a little question? Because I'm I'm the co-founder of a platform called One Book, One Music Album, and One Film. And I would really like to know which book, music album, and film left a mark on your life.
Oh my God. I have so many answers. Okay.
Think fast.
All right. Harold and Maude, the movie.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
oh my God, a music album, like any music album. Jay Dilla's Donuts as a music album, and the book is gonna be Thank You for Smoking by Christopher Buckley.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Jason, and congratulations on the movie.